I caught my neighbor secretly digging a hole in my backyard at 2 a.m. When I confronted him, he smirked and said, "You won't be here much longer anyway." The next day, I installed a security camera. That night, I saw him burying something. When I dug it up, my blood ran cold. I called the police, but before they arrived, my neighbor knocked on my door, whispering, "You should have left it alone. I don't even know where to begin, but I need to get this out. Maybe someone's been through something similar or can tell me I'm not going crazy." This has been the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced, and it's still not over. I live in Springfield, Illinois, quiet neighborhood. Been here for about 5 years. The streets full of retirees, small families, people who wave when they mow their lawns. Nothing weird ever happened around here. That is, until 2 weeks ago. It started with something small. I kept waking up at night around the same time, between 2 and 3 a.m. Thought it was just stress or maybe I needed to lay off coffee in the evening. But one night I got up to get some water. My kitchen window looks over the backyard, and something caught my eye. There was movement. At first I thought it was an animal. Then I realized it was a man with a flashlight, digging. I pressed my face to the glass and stared, trying to process what I was seeing. It was my backyard, my fence, my grass, my tool shed, and this guy, who I realized was my neighbor, Greg, was standing there with a shovel, digging into my lawn like it was his own. I didn't move, just watched. He didn't seem drunk. He wasn't clumsy or stumbling. He was methodical, calm, like he'd done this before. He dug for a while. Then he dumped something small into the hole. I couldn't see what, and covered it up like nothing happened. Not even a glance at my house. Then he slipped out through the side gate and disappeared into the night. I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch staring at the wall until morning. I thought about letting it go. Thought maybe it was some weird mistake or he was trying to bury a dead pet or something. But the more I thought about it, the weirder it felt. So the next morning I walked over to his place. Greg is hard to describe. He's one of those guys who talks like he's joking even when he's not. Mid-40s, average height, never really friendly but never rude either. We said hi when we crossed paths. That was about it. He opened the door like he'd been expecting me. I said, "Hey, I saw you in my yard last night." No reaction, just a little smile. "What were you doing?" He looked me right in the eyes and said, "You won't be here much longer anyway." Then he closed the door. I stood there frozen. I didn't knock again. I just walked home, heart pounding like I'd run a mile. What the hell was that supposed to mean? Couldn't shake it. The look on his face. The way he said it, calm and flat like he was telling me the weather. Not a joke. Not a threat either. Just a fact. That afternoon, I went to the hardware store and bought a security camera. Nothing fancy. Just something I could point at the yard and check from my phone. Installed it myself. I didn't tell anyone. I wanted to see if he'd come back. That night I stayed up, watched the feed from my laptop in the living room. 2:17 a.m. There he was again. He didn't even look around. He walked straight to the same spot, knelt down and started digging. This time he pulled something out of a bag and buried it. Again, I couldn't tell what. It looked like a small box or container. When he left, I grabbed a flashlight and ran outside. The soil was still loose. I dug with my hands. Took maybe 5 minutes to hit something hard. It was a metal box about the size of a shoebox. It was taped shut. My hands were shaking. I brought it inside and opened it on the kitchen counter. Inside were pictures. Dozens of them. All of me, walking to my car, sitting on my porch, grocery shopping, sleeping on the couch with the blinds halfway open. Some looked like they were taken from inside my house, others from far away with a zoom lens. There were also notes, handwritten. My name, birthday, job info, what time I leave the house, when I come home, how often I get deliveries, what nights I take the trash out, even notes about when I talk on the phone and who it sounds like I'm talking to. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I called the cops right away, told them everything. They said they'd send someone out. Then came the knock at the door. I froze. It was soft. Not loud, not rushed. Just steady. I looked through the peephole. Greg. He was standing there, arms at his sides, face blank. I didn't open the door. He leaned in close and said, just loud enough for me to hear, "You should have left it alone." Then he walked away. I still have the box. I gave the cops the video footage. They took it seriously, at least, I think they did. They asked a lot of questions and said they'd start an investigation. But Greg hasn't been arrested. Hasn't been taken in. As far as I can tell, nothing's happened to him. Since that night, I've been staying with my cousin across town. I go back to check the house sometimes during the day. I've been thinking about selling and leaving altogether. But I can't stop wondering what else he buried. What else he's watching. What the hell his endgame is. I haven't told my family the full story yet. Just said I had a neighbor issue and needed a break. They wouldn't believe me if I told them. I'm posting this because I don't know what else to do. I don't know what kind of person takes the time to document someone's entire life and buries it in their own yard. I don't know what he meant by "you won't be here much longer." I don't know why the police haven't done more. But I do know one thing. He's planning something. And I have a feeling this is far from over. Absolutely. Here's the continuation with more conflict, tension, and a dramatic tone. Still in simple words and in that straightforward, Reddit-style narrative. Update. My neighbor buried a box full of pictures of me. The police came, but now it's worse. It's been 5 days since I found that box. 5 days since Greg knocked on my door and whispered that I should have left it alone. I haven't slept more than a couple hours at a time since then. The police said they opened a file. They said someone would follow up. I handed them the box, the pictures, the video, everything. I expected sirens and arrests. Instead, I got silence. No one called me back. No update. Nothing. On the third day, I drove back to my house in the afternoon. My plan was to grab more clothes, maybe check the yard again, see if anything else had been disturbed. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw something that made my stomach drop. My back gate was open. I never leave it open. Never. I parked, heart already racing, and walked slowly to the backyard. There was a new hole. Fresh dirt, not even patted down well. Like someone had been rushed. This time I didn't call the cops. I was too mad. Too tired of waiting around. I grabbed a shovel and dug. Not far down, I found something I wish I hadn't. It was another box, but bigger, heavier. And when I pulled it out and opened it, I actually dropped it. Inside were more photos, but not just of me this time. There were pictures of my cousin's house, of her kids, her front door, her car, even pictures from inside her backyard, where I'd been staying. Greg knew where I went. He knew I was hiding. I packed the box back up and drove straight to the police station. I demanded to speak to someone. They brought out a younger officer who looked like he didn't want to be there. I laid it all out again, told him about the new hole, showed him the pictures of my cousin's kids, her house. He stared at them and just said, "We'll add it to the file." That's when I snapped. I asked what they were waiting for. Did Greg have to hurt someone first? Did I need to end up missing for them to care? The officer just said, "We can't arrest someone for digging a hole. We don't have evidence of a crime." No evidence. Just photos of me and my family. Handwritten logs of my life. Someone sneaking around in the middle of the night. Not enough for them. I left the box on the counter and walked out. When I got back to my cousin's house, I didn't even go inside right away. I just sat in my car and stared at the steering wheel. My hands were shaking. Later that night, around 1:30 a.m., my cousin woke me up. She said someone knocked on the front door and left something on the porch. We opened the door together. Sitting on the welcome mat was an envelope. Just our address written on the front. Inside were 3 photos. One of me looking out her kitchen window from earlier that day. One of her kids riding their bikes in the front yard. And one of her on the phone, pacing in her robe, taken from across the street. No note. No message. That was the moment it hit her. She believed everything. No more shrugging it off or thinking I was overreacting. We took the photos to the police again. Same result. But here's where things got even weirder. The next night, Greg showed up at my house again. I only know because the motion alert from the security camera triggered on my phone. I looked at the footage and there he was standing in my backyard. Only this time, he wasn't digging. He was staring into the camera. Dead center. He knew it was there. Knew I was watching. He didn't move for almost 2 minutes. Then he turned, pulled something from his coat pocket and placed it on the ground. Then he walked away. I waited until daylight. Then I went back. What he left was a notebook. Every page was filled. Lists. Times. Names. A calendar with dates circled. My name was on it. My cousins. Even my ex-girlfriend from 2 years ago. One date was circled in red A. Just 4 days from now. No explanation. Just that date over and over. Now I don't know what to do. The cops think I'm being paranoid. I can't go back home. My cousin's scared. I'm scared. But whatever Greg is doing, it's not random. He's planning something. That much is clear. And that red circle date is coming up fast. Something's going to happen. And I don't think I'm ready for it. I thought it couldn't get worse. I thought after the second box, after the photos of my cousin's house, after the notebook, I'd seen it all. I was wrong. Since the day I found the notebook, I haven't been alone. Not once. My cousin and I agreed that either she or her husband would stay with me at all times. Even during the day, we kept the doors locked and curtains drawn. We tried reaching out to a private investigator, someone we found online who said he had law enforcement experience. He showed up the next day and took everything seriously. He took the photos, the notebook, the video footage, promised to dig into Greg's background. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. It was him, the investigator. "Hey, I just pulled some of Greg's records," he said, his voice low. "You're not going to like this." Turns out Greg isn't Greg. That's not his real name. It's an alias. The man living next to me had changed his name 6 years ago. Legally, through some backdoor court filing in Nevada. Before that, he had a different name. I won't post it here because this is still ongoing, but when I searched that name online, a cold case popped up. A man with that name had been questioned, never charged, in connection with a woman who went missing in Oregon. The case went nowhere. The woman was never found. The man moved out of state 2 months later. Then he became Greg. I couldn't speak. I just stared at the screen. The investigator said he was going to keep digging, try to find more. But here's where it gets crazy. 2 hours after that call, I got an email. No subject. Just a zip file attached. I almost didn't open it. But I did. Inside were hundreds of files. Photos. Audio clips. Screenshots of texts, mine, my cousins, even my ex-girlfriends. Notes on our routines. Our jobs. Hobbies. Places we'd been. Social media profiles. There were files labeled with dates that matched specific events in my life. My job interview 3 years ago. The day my cousin moved to her current house. The weekend I went to a cabin with friends. It was like someone had been collecting data on me and the people around me for years. Some of the audio clips were conversations I'd had in my own house. I felt sick. Then came the final twist. One of the folders was titled simply Phase 3, Red Day. Inside it was a single file. A video clip. It showed Greg, or whatever his name really is, standing in a dim room. The camera is set up on a tripod. He's wearing gloves and smiling. The kind of smile that doesn't belong on a human face. "I told you," he says to the camera. "They never see it coming. And the ones who dig always regret it." Then the screen cuts to black. That red circled date in the notebook? It's in 2 days. I called the investigator back. He hadn't sent that email. Whoever did, they wanted me to see it. And now I can't stop thinking, how long has this been going on? How many people before me were part of Phase 1? What even is Phase 3? My cousin's packing bags. Her husband wants to take the kids and leave town for a while. I don't blame them. But I'm not going anywhere. Not yet. Not until I find out what this man is planning. Because whatever it is, it's coming soon. And I'm starting to think this isn't just about me anymore. The red-circled day finally arrived. That morning, I woke up early. I hadn't really slept, just kind of drifted off from pure exhaustion. My cousin and her family had left the night before, bags packed, kids half asleep, their eyes wide and scared. I told them not to come back, no matter what. I stayed. I don't know why. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was something darker. I wanted to see what Greg would do. I wanted to catch him in the act. I wanted to end it. I had a plan. I set up every camera. I had 2 inside, one facing the backyard and a small one tucked near my fence looking toward his place. The private investigator I hired had agreed to park down the street and stay on standby. I didn't tell him everything. Just said I thought something might happen today. He said he'd keep watch. The hours dragged. At 11:32 p.m., the backyard camera buzzed. Motion detected. He was there. Greg, dressed in black, face covered. He was carrying something, looked like a gas can and a bag. I didn't wait. I grabbed the bat I'd left by the door and ran out the back quietly. I stayed low, hiding behind the shed, watching him kneel near the same hole he'd dug before. He opened the bag, took out a device. I didn't know what it was at first until I saw wires. A small blinking red light. That's when I realized this wasn't about spying anymore. This man was planting something dangerous. I stepped out and yelled his name. He didn't even flinch. Just turned his head slowly and looked at me. "I told you to leave it alone," he said. "You were warned." I held the bat tight. "You're done. I have everything recorded. The police are already watching." He smiled again. That same cold, dead smile? "No, they're not. I made sure of that." Then he pulled something from his jacket, a lighter. "You made a mistake digging into this. They all do." Before I could move, he lit the device and tossed the lighter into the grass near it. But I wasn't thinking anymore. I ran straight at him, tackled him into the dirt. The canister rolled away. The lighter didn't land right, it sputtered out. We wrestled hard. He was stronger than I expected. He bit me. Drew blood. I swung the bat blindly and caught his leg. He screamed and grabbed my throat. But then sirens. The investigator had seen it all from his car and called it in. Greg tried to get up. I slammed the bat into his back. Once. Twice. He collapsed. The cops pulled me off him seconds later. They arrested Greg on the spot. The device was real. Some kind of crude homemade incendiary bomb, set to ignite near my house. If I hadn't stopped him, my home, everything I owned, maybe even the neighbors' houses, would have gone up. Later, they found a hard drive in his house. It was worse than we thought. Footage from inside homes. Audio files going back years. Greg had been watching multiple people. I wasn't the only one, but I was the only one who dug it up. He's in federal custody now. Won't see the outside of a cell again. But here's where my part gets dark. They questioned me for hours about the fight, about the camera footage, about what I knew and when. Turns out the police had been trying to reach me, but I never checked the official case emails. I was too focused on doing things my way, digging when I should have let them do their job. They told me I tampered with evidence, that I nearly destroyed a scene they'd been building a case on for weeks. If Greg had died when I hit him, I would have gone down too. I made mistakes. I let anger blind me. I didn't trust the system. I tried to solve it myself, and it almost cost me everything. The investigator said I saved lives, sure, but I also walked a fine line. I'll carry that forever. My house still smells like burnt plastic and metal. The yard's torn up, full of holes and scars. Just like me. Greg's real name was published in the papers. So was mine. People ask me why I didn't just move away when I had the chance. I tell them the truth. Sometimes when evil is right next door, it's not enough to run. Sometimes you have to dig, even if what you find changes everything.